Great. Thank you very much. And hello, my name is Nina Chang, and I'm a Senior Product Manager with Web of Science. I wanted to thank you for your interest in our two key areas of current and future development that we have been focusing on to evolve the citation network to meet future research needs, specifically citation context and author profiles. This session will begin with an overview of our recently introduced Citation Context program, and then my colleague Phil Reimann will discuss how Web of Science author profiles help researchers and Web of Science users to establish and maintain author identity and measure researcher impact. A question and answer period will be provided after both presentations are complete. We will look at questions entered via the chat at the end of the session. I wanted to quickly start off with what we are going to be covering today. Like to start with a very quick overview of what citation context is, followed by some of the recent applications of citation context and show how they can enrich the discovery experience. And then finally, I'd like to end with a sneak peek into some of the upcoming enhancements. I'm going to start with what we mean by citation context. There are very many useful characteristics of citations that can help assess the utility, intent, impact of each mention. I've listed a few of the major classes here. Let's go ahead and start with location, which in this case is the section in which of the original structured research article where the citation occurred. This is a good hint as to why the author may have cited that reference. For example, articles cited in the introduction tend to be the must-read articles on this topic, whereas articles cited in the material and methods sections tend to discuss how the experiment was conducted. They may mention specific data sets, tools, approaches, things that a subsequent researcher may find helpful if they wish to reproduce the experiment. Results and discussion sections, tend to be, talking about what their results were, and they may be comparing those results to other researchers. Citation patterns among these sections may indicate how important a citation is. For example, if an article is cited only in the introduction and nowhere else in the article, it may be an obligatory nod to show mastery of the topic, but this article may not necessarily have been impactful to this recent piece of research. Citations in the material and methods sections are highly valued by researchers who may be looking for inspiration to reinvigorate their own stymied research. Frequency refers to how often the same reference was mentioned within an article. It tends to be a measure of how influential a source was to the authors of this piece of research. Approximately 25% of references are cited multiple times within a paper. A researcher who could identify these frequently cited references quickly would efficiently target the most influential papers hidden in an exhaustive bibliography. Proximity refers to what other citations are nearby this particular citation within the full length of the article. It's a good proxy for how related the articles are. If you think about an author writing a paper, as they capture the development of an idea in a sentence or paragraph, they're going to place references to attribute their inspiration at the end of the sentence. In this manner, the author is automatically grouping similar content. So the closer two in-text references are, the more likely it is that they discuss the same topic. Finally, we have classification. Classification is the process in which the author's word choice is carefully analyzed and specific verbs or turns of phrases are mapped to a specific intent. What is the purpose of this citation? Is the author just briefly mentioning them, or are they providing background, or are they comparing their findings? Web of Science first introduced the enriched cited reference this April. It is the initial incarnation of our citation context program. In it leveraged the location, frequency, proximity to help a user navigate a potentially overwhelming number of cited references. Specifically, it helps researchers find related reference based on proximity or co-citation, find the most impactful references within this article, and by knowing the section, infer the purpose. In this visualization, each dot represents a specific in-text mention, thereby retaining the logical organization the author carefully made when crediting others' research. Users can interact with the visualization to identify which references they wish to learn more about. They can click on a link and jump down to where this specific mention of this specific reference occurred. In this manner, they can easily see references that are nearby, and the closer they are, the more related that they are. They can also sort this cited reference list to see which references are cited the highest number of times within this article, thus quickly identifying those that were most influential to the authors of this paper. When interacting with the cited reference list, users can see a brief snippet of the author's original words, as well as a prominent link back to the publisher's website where the full length of the article can be found. We expanded this initial offering to include our classifications of what purpose these citations may have served. Because Web of Science is a discovery platform, our classification system is based on a citation's purpose rather than how it was received, because knowing a citation's purpose is more useful to find related content. In this way, researchers can find a citation that describes an experiment's approach, i.e. is classified as basis, even if it were mentioned in the results or discussion section rather than in material methods. The user feedback to enriched cited references has been overwhelmingly positive. The more nuanced presentation of cited references really highlights the editorial integrity of the article, as well as streamlining the discovery process. In September, we expanded the citation alert by adding more context to them. In this way, it is easier to know how an article you are interested in was most recently cited. We include the exact words used when citing your article of interest to make it easier and faster to assess whether you'd like to read the full-length article. In addition to the brief snippet, we also include both the location and the classification by purpose. These citation alert enhancements are available in the Web of Science core collection if an article has been cited by a newly published article that offers the enriched cited references. Let's take a brief look at some of the future enhancements. First off, I wanted to talk about our content expansion program, what we have done so far and what we are planning to do in the future. Web of Science's Citation Context program has been dramatically expanding since it was first released in April. At that point in time, we had around 100,000 articles from about 700 Directory of Open Access journals whose content we had available as XML. By the end of October, we have over 1.1 million records in Web of Science core collection with the enriched cited references feature. This growth, the newly added articles, are coming from an expansion of the process. We started indexing, or we started capturing more citation context from other journals beyond the original test set if they were provided in an XML format. In addition to expanding to all the journals that we are receiving in an XML format in newly published content in 2021, we've also taken a look back, and where available, we've added additional content, from 2019 and 2020. We anticipate expanding this support for the Citation Context program to content that publishers are providing as PDF, in the first half of 2022. The next kind of enhancement that we're looking forward to is a refinement to the classification system. As the classifications stand right now, we have been classifying them based on purpose, the purpose that it served in the original research. At the initial launch, we have grouped all citations for any compare purpose into a single compare label, single compare class. Coming up in early 2022, we are looking to provide a refinement to that definition by separating those compares between those that are similar to the article that is being cited, i.e. they have a similar approach, similar results, from those citations to articles where they made something different. It could be different results, it could be a different approach. This nuanced approach is not designed to infer whether the authors are agreeing or refuting a previously published work, but rather to accurately capture and convey how the author compared their research with the cited work. These more precise classifications will replace the current compare as used across the platform and the enriched cited references and the citation alerts. And a new search result sort order will give the user an opportunity to surface those articles that have been cited as background if they are working in a new topic and need to learn more. Basis if they are trying to find a way forward with their experiment, as well as support and differ if they want to see perhaps some new different approach. They may want to look at things that are different from what has been previously cited. We do see value in providing earlier notification if other researchers are concerned about the quality of a paper. To provide those trustworthy signals, Web of Science will be expanding their retraction support to include earlier indicators. We will be identifying if an article has received an editorial expression of concern, as well as if an article has been withdrawn by the original author. Finally, this content expansion, the classification system is all in the kind of strong desire to really illuminate the citation count beyond a very simple binary, it has been cited, it has not been cited. We are looking through this content expansion to provide, collect sufficient data to really share some meaningful insights about why an article has been cited. In this manner, we're going to move beyond the simple recognition that a citation occurred into a more in-depth understanding of how and why this article has been cited. So that's it for me. Any questions? Or, excuse me, we'll check the chat later. So, Phil, would you like to go?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I've just unmuted myself. And so just bear with us as we switch between screens. So Nina, if you would be so kind, could you just confirm if you can see my screen? Fantastic. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, everybody. Just to reiterate Nina's comments at the beginning, really appreciate you showing an interest and coming along to hear about some of the developments that we're working on within the Web of Science space. This is just a window into just some of the developments. And there'll be plenty of time for questions at the end. If you've got any comments, feedback, or questions about anything related to the exciting citation context work, or anything related to Web of Science researcher profiles, which is what I'm going to take some time now just to walk you through. So just to introduce myself briefly, my name's Phil Reimann, and I work alongside Nina as part of the product team at Clarivate, working on the Web of Science product. And in particular, I lead up the program around researcher profiles and around author search. And so today I'm just going to take probably about 15 minutes or so I have plenty of time for discussion and questions at the end, to talk about some of the future developments and set a bit of context to where our author records have come from and where they're headed. So just for the benefit of anybody that's not familiar with our researcher profiles, I'll spend just a little bit of time at the beginning just recapping exactly what they are. We'll also just talk about the applications of those researcher profiles, why and how we feel that they're beneficial to our users. And then we'll spend some time talking about some of our future plans. And there's plenty of exciting things for me to share there. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting some feedback from those online and hopefully from those in the room who can hopefully see and hear us fine. So first off, what are author records, or what are researcher profiles? So author records are our answer to the problem of name disambiguation in the Web of Science core collection. So whilst it's long been easy for users to discover publications within the index written by a particular named author, understanding if any of those authors are actually the same person, and therefore really being able to understand who they are and what their presence in the Web of Science looks like, has long been a challenge. So what we do to help this discoverability is to take all of the publications in the core collection, look individually at each author on those papers, and determine algorithmically if any single author is likely to be the same person as on another publication. Where we do, those publications are then clustered into what we refer to as an author record, which can then include amalgamated metrics and links to enable you to better understand who this particular person is, what and where they have published, how those people have performed, how those publications have performed, or who that person has worked with. So a search for John Smith, for example, would therefore return records for each John Smith we believe exists in the core collection, not just a collection of the papers written by the same person, written by somebody with that name. On top of this, those records can then be corrected or claimed so that the researchers themselves can take ownership of and benefit from their presence within the Web of Science core collection. And it's this claiming of an author record that unlocks the potential of what we refer to as a researcher profile, both for the person who's consuming it or viewing it and the person who actually owns it. So when a researcher claims a record in the Web of Science, or does so by creating a profile in Publons, they validate the publications that belong to them and can also confirm other details in the process about themselves, such as their preferred name, which might be different from the name that they've published under, and their current affiliation. And this information not only updates the record and their details in the Web of Science, but then also aids the search and discovery of those researchers by making them discoverable via the identity that is relevant and up to date for them. Profiles can also be used to showcase other important scholarly contributions that they have made beyond publication, such as peer and grant reviews and editorial board memberships. They also showcase any awards that those researchers have received, such as the esteemed Highly Cited Researcher Award, or Peer Review Mentor Award, or Top Reviewer Awards. And then they can also sync their profile with ORCID to make the management of that profile fit in with their daily workflows. So for example, if a publication gets added via ORCID to their ORCID, it will automatically make that update to their profile in the Web of Science and vice versa as well. All profiles are assigned a unique Web of Science researcher ID, which means that that data can then be utilized elsewhere in the platform, such as for institutional level benchmarking and analytics in our product insights. So why does all this matter, and what can author records be utilized for? Well, researcher profiles are well positioned, we hope, to help resolve many of the challenges facing researchers and institutions today. Firstly, discovery. So as you're researching a topic or a new idea, understanding the people involved is arguably as important as understanding the research. Who is the most prolific author in that particular field? Whose research did they rely on in the formulation of their ideas? Who have they worked with, and how has that work gone on to influence others? Co-authorship can be used to unlock assessment of collaboration between institutions and even identify opportunities for an institution to further its own goals. As a librarian or as a part of the research office, having accurate author data is essential to responsible evaluation processes to understand where your researchers are publishing, the impact of that research, how your money is being spent, and also to inform career development decisions. And that bit ties nicely with the need to be able to showcase your scholarly contributions in order to progress, both as an individual and as an institution. Whilst most researchers, understandably, want to spend the bulk of their time on research, tracking and managing your output and its impact is part and parcel of the research lifecycle. So we want to make that effort as easy and as beneficial and rewarding as possible, such as by capturing more of the scholarly landscape beyond just publications, making it easy to export that data and to support evaluation or tenure processes, or by utilizing the information within a profile to surface opportunities such as collaboration. And one feature I just want to pause momentarily on is the Web of Science Author Impact Beamplots, which launched earlier this year, only in about April, and which demonstrate clearly our commitment within the Web of Science to providing the tools to the community that help support a cultural change around responsible research evaluation. So in short, if you're not familiar with the Beamplots, Beamplots place the citation performance of a researcher's publications in context relative to other publications published in the same year of the same type, so a research article or literature review, and of the same subject area. So each publication, as we can see here in this example on the left-hand side, is represented by a purple dot, and it's positioned by year of publication and its percentile score. If an article is positioned, for example, at the 90th percentile, this means that it was amongst the top 10% most cited publications of its comparable type published in that year, which is way above average. Mapping this visually for all of an author's publications, which is what we do in this view of a Beamplot here, therefore can paint a much more powerful picture of career impact over time than can otherwise be achieved with other traditional single point metrics, such as the often criticized H-index, particularly for early career researchers. Beamplots can be used to help identify rising stars, those who have improved or consistently performed above average, and can also inform more nuanced conversation about performance that account for otherwise lost details, such as career breaks or movements across subject areas. Since their launch, we've already seen a number of our customers start to incorporate Beamplots into their own research assessment processes, and this is something that we'll be continuing to add more features to in the next year based on some fantastic feedback that we've been getting about them since they've been out in the wild. And so it's with that that I'm excited to now turn to some of the future developments that are coming up to the Profiles program over the course of the next year. So I'll walk through some of the ideas and some of the features of our roadmap in a little bit more detail. The first thing that I want to highlight, which is a significantly exciting development underway at the moment, which is the full integration of Publons into the Web of Science. So after connecting Publons profiles with the Web of Science author records back in 2019, which made it easy to capture Web of Science publications as part of your researcher profile, your free researcher profile, we received many requests from the community to improve the way that the tools work together. And based on that valuable feedback, we're moving Publons profiles into the Web of Science core collection in order to simplify the profile management and improve the overall user experience of the profiles and their functionality for our customers. So as a result of this integration, a number of tasks and features will become a lot easier and a lot more powerful. Firstly, what currently exists is two separate entities. So if people are familiar, if you have a profile, you have one iteration as your author record within the Web of Science core collection and one as a public-facing Publons profile. Those two entities will combine into one profile within the Web of Science. Continuing what we have started already today, as I mentioned about the inclusion of peer review information that's now visible in your profile and the awards. to showcase not just publications, but also editorial board memberships, and in the future, hoping to introduce more facets of what we otherwise would consider a 360-degree view of a researcher. And management of those researcher profiles will therefore also become a lot easier, since by nature of the change, all of that management can be done in one place and only once, so that it's all affecting just one entity. Also, for users within the Web of Science, this integration makes finding people of interest via an author search significantly more powerful, since the results will expand to include not just the algorithmic author records from across the entirety of the Web of Science core collection, but also, in addition to those researchers who have a profile built around other content, such as their peer reviews and editorial board memberships. So you'd be looking across the entirety of that population, which might help inform decisions or research or discovery of earlier career researchers. As well as for these reasons, this greater integration of profiles into the Web of Science presents significant opportunity to more greatly tie the researcher experience of Web of Science in ways that has not been possible for us before. And I'll therefore go into a little bit more detail about the plans that we have for next year in our roadmap. Now, this isn't necessarily a traditional roadmap, but continuing the idea of develops kind of unlocking opportunities, I tend to like to think of the roadmap for the profiles program as a little bit more like an interconnected set of steps or connections or linked opportunities, rather than a linear line of trajectory or direction into a horizon. But don't be put off by what you see here, as I'll focus in and talk about these in a little bit more detail and talk about, take a look at some of these in a few screenshots in the coming slides. So the two key opportunities for us lie around enhanced discovery and a more personalized experience, and how these then tie back into our goals around the utility of profiles across the length of the research lifecycle. So the first of these involves enhancing the discoverability of our profiles, which for us in practice means embedding them into much more of the flows and features that customers are already used to across the Web of Science. For example, we want to surface people, and I emphasize people, in our document search results more prominently, instead of relying solely on the name filter. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail shortly. Or we want to enable users to discover profiles through the lens of an institution search and not just a name search, if you're in particular trying to find people associated with a particular institution. We also want to make the management and upkeep of those profiles much more automatic in order to save researchers time and ensure that the data always remains up to date and correct. And much of this is dependent on one significant milestone, which you certainly know the community has been asking for a long time, and I'm pleased to say is a key priority for next year, which is the assignment of stable identifiers, in our case Web of Science researcher IDs, to all records, not just those claimed profiles. And this, for example, will make our current integration with insights significantly more powerful for the benchmarking of research output at the institutional level, and will also pave the way for a brand new researcher API that can facilitate integrations with other platforms as well. So as I say, I'll show a couple of these things in more detail in just a moment, but the second key area of focus for us is the utilization of this information and profiles to create a much more proactive and relevant experience of the Web of Science focused to the researcher. So based on your profile, we want to help researchers discover content and even people that might expand the research sites beyond their typical horizon, or even present opportunities for collaboration or even funding. So we will enable users to take control of that content via tailored alerts, delivered where and when they want them. Not sure why that's showing up, sorry. And then build on that through integrations with our other products as well, such as Myra or My Research Assistant, our mobile application. So they don't need to break stride in their research wherever they are. So I'll just now do a bit of a deeper dive into those two main areas and look at some of the features that will kind of contribute to both. So first, as mentioned, we'll be surfacing people much more prominently in our document search results. So at the moment, if you're familiar with it, you can filter results by name. But going back to the problem of name disambiguation, it's often hard to determine if those documents with the same named author are actually the same or multiple different people. So instead, when you're looking at a set of documents, we will show how those results break down by people or profiles. So there may be multiple John Smiths publishing in the field of climate change, for example, but we'll help by doing so, by making this change, we'll help you figure out who appears most frequently, where they're publishing from, and who they've worked with. You'll be able to then click on one of those names to be able to see a summarized version of their profile in the same page, so you don't need to leave your search results. And then obviously you can then click through to see that person's profile in more detail if that's the direction that you want to go. The same will apply to our analyze results feature as well, meaning that you can start to perform significant analysis of how a set of documents relate to people, much more so than there's been as possible before. And then moving along, we're also excited to be bringing across from Publons a really popular feature, which is this citation map, which will be also extending from what's available in Publons today to making it available on all profiles, not just visible to those owners within their own private dashboard. So you can start to see these maps appearing on other people's profiles as well. These maps show a geographic location of all the articles that cite this person's work, which not only showcases a unique angle of that person's impact, but also gives other users a novel ways to explore their citations and discover related works. And it's been great to see some of our users kind of screenshotting these and including them in their research evaluations. And moving along, I've also mentioned already our plans to introduce a new researcher API, and this will make it much more easy to integrate profile data into third-party applications, not just for display and for analytics, but also our hope is to facilitate the two-way synchronization of our profiles so that if updates are being made in one place, those will automatically feed through to another, particularly with the focus of trying to save researchers time by managing their profiles in one place and not having to do repeat tasks across different platforms. In terms of some of the personalization features, one thing that we'll be exploring is how people recommendations might be useful in the same way as article recommendations already are in the Web of Science today. So in the first instance, these recommendations might help users discover other people working in similar fields that might otherwise be unknown to them. So these recommendations will start to appear when you're looking through other people's author records, not just connected via co-authorship. But as the researcher who actually owns that profile, we want to explore how those people recommendations might also be a valuable way to address the challenge of finding collaborators, particularly as research is increasingly getting more multidisciplined. Moving along, this and other personalized features will surface themselves to the user in a new version of the Web of Science homepage, leveraging it not just as a page from which to perform a search, but as a platform from which to launch whatever task to support your research flow at that time. Be it a quick view of the most recent results related to the searches that you have saved, latest publications from researchers that you are interested in, or catalogues of your marked lists from which to continue a current project. Surfacing the functionality of Web of Science where it matters to you will become more and more intuitive through greater integration with other Clarivate products and services. So in this example, researcher profiles will soon be available via our My Research Assistant application, enabling you to track both your own profile, but also to bookmark content and other people via in-app searches in order to then pick up at a later point. We're also then keen to explore how other integrations of the app can solve other problems for researchers. For example, and this is just an idea to put out for feedback, it might be leveraged for, to be able to track submissions of articles that have been made through ScholarOne. So that's a kind of an overall cover of some of the features and everything that we're thinking up through for next year. So just to recap quickly, because I know that we've kind of gone through quite a lot in a short amount of time. So just to recap what researcher profiles are, it's a combination of algorithmic and human curated information that yields a high quality author data for the benefit of the researchers that own them, but also for easing the challenges that surface across the research lifecycle. At their heart, they serve as a platform that powers greater discoverability and helps shift the needle, we hope, of responsible research evaluation, supporting a much more holistic conversation about performance and impact than as might have occurred in the past. Looking ahead, research profiles will continue to serve these needs in new and exciting ways, bringing greater control and personalization to the researcher experience to help them find the answers and solve the problems that they face in their daily workflows. So thank you very, very much for bearing with us and listening to our whistle-stop tour of some of these developments that are happening in the Web of Science. And both Nina and myself are more than happy to take any questions, both I think in the chat or via the room. And I hope somebody can help relay any questions in the room for us. Thanks very much again. I can see one question. So I'm seeing some questions pop up in the my chat window here. I don't know if that's the same one that other people are using. So I'll just repeat one of the questions. I think the first one is directed for the author records and Nina. I don't know if you can see the second one, but I think the second one is one for you. So just to repeat the first one, what types of products will be included with the cross-product integrations? So that's really kind of an open opportunity for us at the moment. I mentioned some of the integrations that we're looking at the moment. So across the Clarivate suite, we really want to look at how you as a user of our products can benefit from having some of that information about your profile, help solve some problems across the different parts of the research lifecycle. So I mentioned one around the integration with the Myra application, which at the moment enables you to do quick searches of Web of Science, bookmark content and pick that up later on when you're in like a desktop version of the Web of Science. And so bringing in profiles into that, we really hope will mean that you can both kind of add a bit more context to the publications that you're navigating through the application, but also to start really kind of tailoring some of the alerts and information that you might want to receive. There might be some kinds of alerts that you'd prefer to receive via an email, as you currently can through the platform, or ones that you might want to appear in the product, or it might be that something suits a more direct brief message, such as a citation alert or a publication alert from an author you're interested in. You might prefer to receive that via a channel, a mobile channel instead. Scholar One is another area that we're interested to explore. So if you've submitted a publication through Scholar One and that's associated with your profile through our platform, then it could be the right kind of mechanism by which to receive updates on the progress of your paper submission through Scholar One. And obviously, Insights is another deep integration with Web of Science. At the moment, we've been introducing the ability to query author records, but principally only those claimed author records through a beta in Insights. And very soon, with the expansion of those stable identifiers to all records, then we'll be able to start leveraging all of those records in Insights as well. So that's just a couple of examples of some of the types of integrations that I was referring to. So Nina, the second question, and I'll just read it out for the benefit of anyone that's not able to see it. How are you cleaning up assigning citation variants with bad citations in particular?
In terms of the citation context program that I discussed, we are taking the author's exact words, the cited references as provided by the publisher kind of verbatim, thinking more broadly about citation counts and how they might be used for responsible metrics. We've always had a fairly robust program of making sure that when we respect what the author initially provided in their cited references, that we also apply very thoughtful kind of pattern analysis in order to identify and aggregate citations to the same article where perhaps there might be a little bit of shades of gray. But in terms of the citation context program, we are taking the content as originally provided by the publisher.
Thank you, Nina. There's plenty of opportunity to ask any other questions. I've seen a message to say that there aren't any other questions in the room at the moment. So if anyone's got any, feel free to put some in the chat. Likewise, hopefully you can still see my screen and you can grab my email address if there's anything that you want to ponder over and reach out about at a separate time, or if there's any other developments within the Web of Science that you're particularly interested to hear about more. Okay. Great. Well, we very much hope that that was of interest and helpful. for you and that you're excited about some of the developments coming up next year. Just to reiterate again, please do grab my email, reach out to either myself or Nina, and we'll be happy to take any questions offline as well. Otherwise, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and we'll speak to you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.